Today we are discussing a very interesting issue that's plaguing the options market, particularly after Sebi introduced some new rules in 2019 and a new stock exchange circular came in October 2021. To explain what the big issue is, my colleague Satya Santanam joins us. Hi Satya.
Hi Neil.
So before we get into the issue itself, let me quickly explain how an option works, what an option is. So essentially, an option is a contract which gives you the right to buy an underlying share or the right to sell an underlying share at a particular price on a particular day. The key thing here is the right, but not the obligation. And this is something that the new rules have turned on its head. Effectively, they have made it an obligation, and that has caused mayhem in the options market. So let's first understand what rules were changed and what issues they caused. Satya, would you like to brief us on this?
Yes, Neil. Yeah. In 2019, Sebi came out with physical settlement, compulsory physical settlement rules for the stock options. Whenever on the expiry day, if there is any position that is open, the option trader has to settle the transaction by giving or taking delivery of the shares. Say suppose in a call option, I'm an option buyer, call option buyer. In this case, if my option is open on the expiry day, then I have the obligation to take delivery of the shares. And when I say take delivery of the shares, of course, I need money in my demat account to be maintained to buy those required number of shares. In case of a put option, so put option gives an option buyer a right to sell the shares. In this case, if the put option get exercised on the expiry day, then the trader has the obligation here after the physical settlement rules. A trader has an obligation to give delivery of the shares.
And this is not traditionally how options have worked, right? Options have something called cash settlement, where you didn't have to have the shares or the actual amount of money that you had the option for. You just had to settle the difference between the strike price and the prevailing market price of the share. Now that is gone. Now you have to have the actual shares or the actual amount of money. Now tell us what happened. Give us an example of what problem was caused.
As you mentioned earlier, so take suppose a put option. If this transaction is in the money on the expiry day, the option buyer will be getting the difference between the strike price and the market price into his or her demat account. The profit will be credited. But in case of physical settlement, till October 2021, there is an option to also opt for do not exercise. And if that's the case, the trader would have opted for do not exercise and it will be closed. But what happened in October 2021 was NSE came out with a circular withdrawing the do not exercise option. So there is no option for the trader except to physically deliver the shares in case of a put option. When you have an obligation to deliver the shares, and if you do not have any shares in your trading account, it becomes a short delivery. The transaction on the settlement day, if you do not have any shares in your account, it goes to the auction. In the auction, the exchange will buy the shares at whatever price it is available in the market. And the difference between the strike price and the price at which the stock was sold in the auction, so it has to be borne by the trader, because the trader is the one who did not meet his or her obligation on the expiry date.
Right. And Satya, so you could have an option where you have paid a premium of rupees 10,000 and you're under the impression that that is the maximum amount of loss you can bear. Your 10,000 rupees can become 0 rupees. But when it goes into this kind of short delivery settlement, you could actually end up with a loss that is several multiples of the option premium. Is that right?
Absolutely, Neil. So as I said, whenever a contract is in the option, it is beneficial for the option buyer. But now what's happening is say suppose it goes, it is a short delivery, it's resulted into a short delivery. So it is now uncertain on what is the amount that the trader has to pay. The theoretical knowledge says that in case of an option buyer, the loss is limited to the option premium paid. But in this case, when it goes to the auction, we don't know at what price the share will be bought in the option in the auction. It could be much higher than whatever you paid as an option premium, and it could also actually turn it into a losses.
Client has now the price risk, liquidity risk, and it cannot absorb those risks, results into a default risk. Now, these risks translate to stockbroker as a liquidity risk, price risk, as well as a default risk. In suppose amount is very high, and stockbroker cannot absorb this kind of risk, this will get translated to clearing corporation, and from clearing corporation to maybe to the other market participants. So this is a systematic risk. We should not look at risk as a risk of the client or risk of a stockbroker. This is a market-wide systematic risk. And this is the way internationally, wherever even stock future and options are settled delivery, it is being done. So now you have to provide a right or a restore a right of option buyer, saying if they want to exercise, they exercise. If they don't want to exercise, it is their wish. Let this option exercised at zero value. Okay. That right has to be restored back to the option buyer. So facility has to be introduced on the expiry day, post market closes, post announcement of the settlement prices. Any option buyer whose option is in the money has a right to exercise if you wish so.
So basically, for traders who are active in the F&O segment, really, they have to very keenly watch out for this kind of issue happening. And ideally, they should square off, as it is called, or close their positions long before expiry. Because if they hit expiry and they don't have the underlying, then they could end up with this kind of terrible situation. Thank you so much, Satya, for explaining this to us.
Sure, Neil, thanks.